Oh no, I've got to heat the car up. Right, just jump in. Luckily it's not that cold today. Today's going to be a rushing around vlog post because, yeah, last day of school for him and I've got to sort everything out for Christmas. Ah, lots of presents to get. See? Not that cold. I just heard from Mummy and apparently she's stuck on the M25. Has been for the last hour. I had a quick look online. They're like totally closed the M25 going anti-clockwise this morning. So something pretty serious has happened. Just hope nobody's been badly hurt, but I've noticed there's been quite a few crashes over the last few weeks because, you know, driving conditions have changed. It's a lot darker all the time. It's wet, it's a bit icy sometimes, and human drivers just aren't that great at adapting to changing conditions, and they're also not that reliable, which is where I think the real advantage of autonomous driving sort of comes in. It's much more dependable, and if they can demonstrate a significant drop in accident rates, which I think will be pretty easy actually. I mean, Tesla have kind of already done that with autopilot. This was a statistic from about 18 months ago, so it's probably much better than this now, but they said you were 40% less likely to be involved in an accident if you were driving on autopilot on the motorway versus driving manually. And that's with pretty first generation driver aid technology. Time to get into school. And then it's on to do some shopping.
To get a new camera.
No, I'm not going to get a new camera, Jasper.
What is it?
Well, Christmas is coming up, so we might need to buy some things. Time to get this Christmas shopping done. I do have a bit of a logistical problem with Christmas shopping, in that I'm going to be careful what I put in the vlog, otherwise the people who receive the gifts are going to know what they're going to get like 3 days before Christmas. So I haven't quite worked out how I'm going to overcome that. Maybe I just turn the camera off. Right, that's Jasper taken care of, I'd say. Shopping done. Now I'm just going to check the tyre pressures because they look a bit low. Tyre pressure thing didn't work. I mean, the gauge worked and turns out the tyres are fine, but I wanted to put an extra couple of PSI in and it just wouldn't do anything. Bought that thing for a sort of emergency pump the tyres up. Ugh. I don't know why, but every time I've ever owned any kind of tyre inflation device that runs off of a 12-volt battery, they have all stopped working. Either cars are getting bigger or the spaces are getting smaller. I hate shopping around Christmas time. Right, anyway, that's the end of the bar humbugging, because it's all done. Believe it or not, this is early Christmas shopping for me. I managed to get Jasper to write the Christmas cards for his little school friends. I did that this morning. Today is the last day of school. Yeah, I seem to have a nasty habit of leaving things to the last moment. That's actually, with the editing, that's one of the things that has made the last few months particularly difficult, and it's always this way. I don't know why, I always leave things, and it really limits like what I can do with life. It's one of the things that I'm hoping, if I'm going to have any kind of a New Year's resolution this year, it's going to be to make sure that I get everything done at the earliest possible point that I can. After all, it's exactly the same amount of work, whether you get it done early or late. It's just much less stressful. I'm just waiting for Jasper and you know what, we'll do this later. I'm not woken up today. Are you ready for the Christmas holidays? Are you ready? Yeah? That always makes me feel much more energetic. Christmas is really about children, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Not Daddy.
Yeah, not daddies. To be fair, it's mainly about giving and family, actually. But that's also known as children. Hear that banging upstairs? Mummy's back and she's putting Jasper to sleep, so yeah. Running around, it feels like I've been running around at full speed all day long. It's always this way on the lead up to Christmas though, so I've got the vast majority of my chores done and dusted. Yes, that frees me up to move on to the topic of the day, which is this insane race for faster and faster acceleration ever going to come to an end? You might have noticed Teslas are getting quicker and quicker and quicker. You had the Roadster, the original Roadster.
Surely you can never grow up.
No, I haven't grown up.
Boys don't grow up. It's a nippy little thing, isn't it?
I think that was like 4.2 seconds 0 to 60. Then the P85 Plus that also did it. Oh no, it was 3.7 seconds, I think, the original Roadster. Then the P85 Plus that did it in 4.2 seconds eventually, I think, after a couple of software upgrades. Then you had the P85D.
Push your foot down. Go on.
Holy sh!
Then you had the P190D actually, but let's just jump straight to the P100D. They'll actually do it in about 2.3 seconds, I think. And now in a few years' time, there's going to be the second gen Roadster that will do 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. Is there any justifiable reason to have vehicles like that on the road? Really? I do actually love the fact that it brings people into the Tesla brand. It's their USPs. They just are, for the money, the quickest accelerating cars off the line you are going to find anywhere. In fact, actually, probably just anywhere. Forget the for the money bit. But there's a caveat. You see, in the past, acceleration times 0 to 60 have been limited by physics. Not the physics of tyres or roads, but the physics of the internal combustion engine. You just can't spin the thing up quick enough to do a 0 to 60 much lower than that. And if you do want something that will do that, you tend to be talking millions of dollars. Now, where the problem comes with this is that the electric motor is free from that inherent limitation, and it's actually more limited by the amount of current that you can squeeze out of the batteries to supply the motor. You can have an electric motor that's that big and produced, I don't know, probably at that size, you're probably looking something like 1,000 brake horsepower. So you could put 2 of those in a car easily. You could put 4 of them in a car. I mean, it would be totally mental and but you could do it. So the 0 to 60 time could actually drop from 1.9 seconds to, I don't know, I would have said probably the physical limit of rubber and tyres and roads probably leaves 0 to 60 at about 1 second. But that is still completely and utterly ridiculous. You can't possibly have the vehicle properly under control whilst you're accelerating at that rate. I did a couple of sort of micro launches in the P100D Model X that I had a couple of weeks ago, and you know what? It wasn't actually possible to be properly in control of that thing when it's accelerating. Oh. Okay, that's not normal. You can't even see straight. The jelly in your eyes gets squidged. Is there going to have to be some kind of a limit to the advancement of 0 to 60 figures? Especially when those figures start to feed into cheaper cars, which I think they're going to, because the most expensive bit of making a car that does 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds is having a battery that can pump that much power into the motor. People are constantly pushing for larger and larger batteries, and what that means is over time, as the price of batteries drops, you're going to wind up with a MPV or a small subcompact car, you know, the kind of thing that in the past you would have bought for your daughter's first car or your son's first car. But here's the thing, if it comes with a 250 mile range, then that means it has a battery that is large enough that if you couple it with a big inverter and motor, which doesn't cost a huge amount more than a normal sized inverter and motor, what you wind up with is a car that does 0 to 60 in a handful of seconds. I suppose governments probably aren't going to see the need for this sort of legislation until you do wind up with very, very powerful cars being sold for not a huge amount of money. And if the vast majority of cars on the road could do 0 to 60 in a couple of seconds, then I'm pretty sure the government would feel the need to legislate. I mean, they already pretty much do, with the fact that insurance is so ridiculously expensive, but it gets cheaper if you have a telematics box. You couldn't foist a telematics box onto the vast majority of other drivers, but for some young drivers, it's the only way they can get themselves on the road. Well, this has been interesting. I am like biblically behind again Oh, like such a broken record. I'm getting so bored of it. You must be too. I apologise. But it's all going to change in the new year because I am going to get myself ahead and stay ahead and plan. I've got literally piles of cards, business cards from various different interesting organisations, people that I need to get in contact with and hopefully go visit and, you know, do something on the vlog. What's been happening over the autumn is that I've wanted to do that sort of thing, but because I've only got sort of 6 hours, which sounds like quite a long time while Jasper is at school, it means that I'm having to be really, really efficient with those 6 hours, and I'm not being efficient with it because I usually have at least some editing for that day's upload that needs to be done during the day. And by the time I've done that, when I get extra motivation because there's something really fun going on, like when I went to Petrolhead Detailing, for example, then it gives me the motivation to sit up late at night and do the editing and make sure it's all done, even if that means I get a few hours less sleep than I'd like. The problem is, if I have to motivate myself to get in contact with people, then it's a mental problem. You know how you have attention deficit disorder? Well, I think I have motivation deficit disorder. And in particular, it's bad in autumn, as the days are getting darker. Once the days start to get lighter, somehow I sort of do start to get back into it a bit more, which is why I'm so looking forward to the new year. I'm going to head off now and try and get some of the things on my list done. So I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post. If you have, remember to like it, share it and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I will see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Bye. Hear that banging upstairs? Mummy's back and she's putting Jasper to sleep, so yeah. A minute. Don't like a dirty lens. Well, I've been running around, it feels like I've been running around at full speed all day long.